So let me start off with some intros. They're also, to a person, pretty humble, so I had to extract some bio, some brag bites out of them. So we'll start with Matt Stevens. Matt is the CEO of Centegix. Centegix innovates technology to save and enrich lives. You may have seen their table outside. They're they're an Atlanta startup. They protect about 1 million people across 1,000 schools, hotels, government buildings, faith-based institutions in 10 different states. Maybe we're getting some background noise, maybe for another mic. Is it? We might have somebody else on our channel. We'll see we'll be innovating real time here, solving real problems. They've been recognized by TAG as a top innovative Georgia company. They're a top 40 PACE Center company by Atlanta Business Chronicle, #2 nationally, Future of Education Technology Conference. Matt is the former chairman of High Tech Ministries. When I tell people I know Matt Stevens, they all go, "Do you mean High Tech Ministries Matt Stevens?" So he got a different first name during his long stint there. He's the husband of Candace. He's got 3 amazing kids. Interesting fact, when we go backpacking, he sleeps in a hammock with a little cover on it. He even innovates with, you got real backpackers looking at this guy saying, "That's innovative what this guy's stringing up." So Matt, anything you want to add? Perfect, thanks for coming. Next up, to his left, Jason Allen. Jason is currently the Chief Revenue Officer of Crown & Caliber. They are changing the way consumers buy and sell luxury watches. They're in the pre-owned luxury, they're basically a pre-owned luxury watch retailer, exclusively online. We thought it would be interesting for you all. They're a leader in this re-commerce space. Atlanta is like the capital of re-commerce. So I actually didn't realize it until we started working with them. Kind of a critical mass of people that grew up in and around some of the automotive businesses, and now they're nailing it in luxury watches. They're growing at 60% a year. Everything he's responsible for, basically it's everything except for the watches themselves. So people are touching, handling, moving the watches through. He's got more or less the rest of it. He spent 5 years in consulting. Don't hold that against him. The consultants were not all bad guys. 12 years at Auto Trader. Truly, really passionate about developing employee and customer experiences. Like, you get him going on that, he can just jam, and it's fascinating. Interesting fact, none of these guys knew the interesting facts that I was gonna throw in. He tends to rock really cool watches at events like this. So show him what you got, show him what you're wearing today. And then Matt was just joking around, send him a link, say, "Hey, I might wanna buy that one." Show him what this is. Now, I don't think he does that for everybody, but that's a good friend to have. Hey, can you just show up and bring a luxury watch with you? It's not bad. Jason, anything you want to add? All right, Thomas Stubbs, my longtime friend. Thomas is the Vice President of Engineering and Innovation at Coca-Cola Freestyle. I was going to ask, does everybody know what Freestyle is? But if you don't, I don't want to embarrass you. It's that really cool machine you want. They got a bunch of them now, different models. People should pretty much know what that is at this point. His background, he was a CTO and founder. He had roles in mobile startups. He did foundational work in connected cars, so kind of been there, done that. Joined Coke in 2004. He led teams in global strategy, development, groundbreaking digital capabilities, loyalty platforms in the US, Japan, Olympics, FIFA, World Cup, Super Bowl. He owns the full strategy and development for the actual Freestyle dispensing platform, so that's mechanical engineering, electrical, software engineering, fluidics, which I didn't know that word until I first started working with these guys, fluidics. I don't know what it is, but I know the word, and it moves the fluids there. He directs the innovation capabilities, passionate about building products, strategy, and teams. In his spare time, he enjoys live music, quality sip of whiskey, spending time with friends and family, and love to be surrounded by water. If there's water nearby, he usually has a smile on his face. Interesting fact about Thomas, if you got that backbreaker of a project, I pulled up 36-hour shift one time, and in the middle of it, Thomas left the war room and came back with beer and food for the overnight crew. This is the guy you want to slug your way through Hades with on the world's toughest projects. And we pulled it off with like 10 minutes to spare before everything launched around the world. So, not bad, 10 minutes. So again, A little bit about me, I'll keep it brief. You guys can see my bio. Mike Morris, I am the founder of Broadgreen Solutions. One correction from my bio. We got acquired on Monday. We're now part of EPAM. We're super excited. If you want to hear about that, oh, thanks. It's better than the alternatives, right? But we're really excited. And you want to hear about me, catch me after the show. Just really, really honored to know these guys, count them as friends and clients, and many years of relationships. So these guys get out of bed in the morning, I think. I haven't been there. But they seem to show up at work thinking like innovators. There's a mindset, there's an approach to life that they bring. So let me start. A little bit of a softball question. I don't know who wants to take it first. How do you think about innovation? Just what's your basic mental framework? Thomas?
Well, hello.
You flip the switch.
I did. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be loud. This morning I started with a little bit of fear because all of my other speaking engagements have been canceled because all the shows, right, around the country are canceled. So I decided that I would innovate on that this morning. So this is just a sample. I mean, sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's opportunity, but those are two great motivators. So out of the fear this morning, I decided not to shake anyone's hand, but instead, and if I could demonstrate on one of the panelists, would one of you greet me? I think you know what's coming, right? Instead, ta-da, we elbow bump. Softball question, softball answer, but I start thinking about the things that are both threats and opportunities to the business to try to put myself in the mindset of people that want a piece of our business. And even just the Freestyle part of Coke is $1 billion business, so there are plenty of people that would want that. So I start there, and I also start with what looks like the next big business that we're possibly going to go after. So it's a little bit more detailed than that, but that's where it starts.
Perfect, thanks. Jason?
Yeah, I think for us, it's important to understand a little bit because most people are like, pre-owned luxury watches is a thing. There's about $5 billion worth of new Swiss mechanical watches that come into the United States every single year. So you just go back 20 years, you can get to about $100 billion worth of watches on people's wrists or in their closet or hidden in a drawer somewhere because they don't wear them anymore because people are wearing Apple Watches, I understand, but no, that is not impacting our business. And so I guess our whole company somewhat is an innovation because there's not, there isn't an easy way to transact, right? If you think about cell phones, you can sell your cell phone in Gazelle. You can sell golf clubs on PGA Value Guides. You have Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book, CarMax, right, in the automotive space. But in the watch space, there wasn't an easy way, trusted way to do that with data, right, that backed the value of the watch. So our whole company really kind of became an innovation, and our founder started it in about 2013 or 2014, and I joined in 2016. We've done around 70,000 transactions over the past 6 years. And so I put all that out there because from innovation for me, it's really part of our everyday job. We had a team huddle this morning and I was explaining to everyone that we actually were innovating. I was letting them know I was going to talk and I was kind of practicing a couple of answers on them. But we look at it as small innovations every single day is what really creates long-term value and long-term innovation. And so I don't look at it as this major like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. How do I innovate, right? All the Harvard Business Review articles that are out there about how do you innovate in your company. Maybe that's a bigger deal for bigger companies. I mean, that's my background and I saw that as a challenge. In a small company, that's just called staying in business, right? And listening to kind of the whispers of your customers of what they're looking for. So that's how we approach it every day.
Ask Kodak if it's a problem for big companies.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's a great point. So small innovations every day, and you started with an innovation. Great. Matt?
Yeah, for us, same like problem, I guess. For us, innovate. We innovate technology to save and enrich lives. So it's part of our culture. It's who we are. For us, it's a systematic method of thinking. And by definition, for early stage companies, innovation is just part of your culture. It has to be part of your culture, right? So, I think that we need to stop, in general, right? We need to stop looking at innovation like it's a thing or a phase or an event that we get through, and we need to apply that as a method of measuring our culture across the company. With that, I say that the best way that it was ever described to me is it's the same as the difference between a wedding and a marriage. right? You have a wedding, you're in a marriage, and you need to invest in your marriage every single day. If you do that, there's good long-term consequences for it. If you go through wedding and are like, hey, I'm done. This is awesome. I'm married now. I'm probably going to pretend poorly for the long-term outlook. Same's true in companies.
I think that's a great point on investment. When I'm asked if we're innovating, one of the things I look at is, do we have people that have time to innovate? As if all you are doing is running the business in front of you now. In your case, taking an inventory and ship watches, and you don't have people with time. It's not just money, it's smart people with time to think about how to improve and not just fight fires. Then you can't innovate without it. And that's the investment. That's the difference between a date and a marriage. And Google famously has their sort of 70-20-10, and they've sort of codified that. Well, we're in the Google room, so they sort of codified that as a way of investing in innovation. But that's the most important thing, at least for a big company, because if a big company is only focused on right now P&L, they won't innovate.
Great point. So guys, I warned you we were going to go off script, so it's happening right now. Jason, you talked about a lot of little innovations every day. None of you guys strike me as worriers, but it seems you always have some things you're thinking about, you're concerned about. Do you get concerned about people just coming to work, clocking in and out, yabba dabba doo, they're gone? How do you keep that going with your teams? You guys are young. Someday, if you're blessed enough, you'll be the oldest company in the room. But how do you keep that going for the long term with your employees?
I mean, for us, we established a really clear mission, right? Our mission is to provide a uniquely better way for consumers to buy and sell the right watch, the right price, with the right experience. So our customers know that, our employees know that, they can quote that, they see it every day when they come in. But then we also established 4 core values that we hire, we fire by, and I know that people get tired of hearing that, but for us, it's act like an owner, move fast, work better together, and love people. If we can do all of that, then we can build a company that doesn't matter if we were selling watches or if we were selling Coke, or selling anything else. I believe that the culture is what creates innovation. So we empower the team to make decisions. I think they innovate every single day. We were a consignment model at one point, so we consigned watches, which VCs love because you don't take on inventory. It was a horrible model because you were serving 2 masters and telling one person, I'm going to get you the best deal for a watch, and another person, I'm going to get you the most money for your watch. We were a marketplace at one point, and dealers were sending us watches for us to ship out that weren't ready. And so our team is the one who came and said, this isn't working. I'll never forget one guy he started buying more watches versus consigning, and I went to him and said, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just leading with that we'll buy it. Like, perfect. Let's have everyone do that, right? And it completely changed our model. And this was just, guy 2 years out of college on the phones for us working. And I see that as innovation. Maybe that's too simplistic, but that's what's driven our company for the past several years.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Surround yourself by disruptors. People that have the ideas like, well, I just start with, yeah, sure, we'll buy it, right? We've got a couple of people on staff that everybody has the, full authority to be able to call anybody out at any time for any reason. We're just trying to create that kind of a culture, but they also, they won't let us, because of our business, right? Lives are on the line, and they won't let us get by with the easy answers, and they'll delve into the particulars, and they'll talk about things that may be uncomfortable, and that will force us into deeper conversation. So, that requires a lot of things. It requires first that you humble yourself, because you don't have all the answers, and you have to know that you don't. Then you have to listen, right? And I think the investor panel that was here a couple of minutes ago touched on this, but you have to listen not only to your staff, but if you're not listening to your customers as you contemplate innovation, you're pointed just fundamentally in the wrong direction. And then you have to take action. And, it's the taking action. I remember what Joe McCall used to say incessantly to us is fail fast, fail cheap. And, that's part of it. But failure, if you realize that failure on a micro level is not fatal ever, then you have the ability to push through and innovate ultimately to success.
Thomas?
I don't have anything to add, I don't think.
Really? You're the
no,
most mature company on the panel.
Well-
How do you guys keep it going? Freestyle didn't come out of nowhere.
No, Freestyle didn't. I will talk about that. Freestyle came out of an open checkbook and a bunch of smart people in a basement.
That's always a nice thing. I'll take one of those.
And
We don't have that.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely not the check.
You know, it's interesting we don't do that anymore. Actually, it is atypical for a big company to invest in what is like a moonshot in terms of the money put forward. But we did that. We created essentially a culture within a culture that essentially had to separate itself from the core business at the time. Sustaining that's a little bit different. We are actually, Freestyle's in a facility across the railroad tracks from Coca-Cola Plaza. We're actually on the Georgia Tech side, sort of the street, and that end-to-end business is for us really, really important. It is not, we don't run at the scale of the Coca-Cola system, nowhere near it. The only thing that is the scale of the Coca-Cola system is like the US Army, in terms of logistics. But we run end to end. We try to have fun, and we are incrementally innovating, but we also have our finger on some things that we really think will change the game. And people come to work for the excitement, for instance, of disrupting our existing business. We have an enormous bottled water business. Freestyle has a Dasani Pure Fill machine that we're starting to place that encourages people to not use water bottles or use reusable vessels instead of water bottles. So what keeps us going is we make the best dispensed drinks on the planet for sure, but we're moving into other areas. And we're really excited about that. So this is something we'll talk about.
Lessons for the younger companies and what the mature companies do to keep that hustle, keep it going. All right, guys, another softball, nice and easy right across the plate. The last panel, they covered this too. I was like, that's one of my questions. But you guys will have different stories. Your favorite innovation story from your current organization, something you're really proud of. I mean, we may have already hit yours, Jason, with the guy said, what did he put? We'll buy it, right? So that's a good one. So you can work on your next one. But Matt, you want to start? Favorite innovation story from what you guys do?
Yeah, well, we're a year into the market, so innovation for us. We actually started. Let me say this: we're a 4-year-old, 1-year-old company. So we started in video cameras and video surveillance and audio equipment in classrooms, and then Parkland, right? And a lot of people died, and we recognized the market was saying, "Hey, we need a better solution than what's out there today, Motorola two-way radios, which really don't provide any intelligence or any actionable data, just screaming across a microphone, right? If you're getting shot at, a radio is really not very useful." And for us, that began a massive innovation into what is now the crisis alert platform. We made a real big bet, the company bet on that platform as we transformed and transitioned around crisis alert. Like I said, we're a year into it, but revenue's up 500%. We protect nearly 1 million people across 10 different states. It turned out listening to customers really worked well in that instance for us.
Perfect. So you actually tore the old business down, built a new one, and started saving a lot of lives, started protecting a lot of people. Great.
Is that easy?
Yeah, just that easy. Yeah, double click, right? Yeah. As a consultant, I've had 5 chevrons and make it look easy, right? So good deal. Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in our space, what you may not know is a watch, a car, right, has a VIN number, and a VIN number tells you a lot about the watch, a lot about the car. I'm still trying to get out of the car business. I grew up
Tough to get that out of your system, right?
But a watch doesn't have that. A watch has a model number. And for example, I'm wearing a watch. This is called a Coke. I wore it for Thomas. But there's another version that's may go by a different nickname. That is actually worth like $4,000 to $5,000 more, and the only difference is the color of the bezel. And so that doesn't exist anywhere. It doesn't even exist within the manufacturers. So what that does is it makes it very challenging to value watches. So we actually built proprietary database, and we are able to identify the attributes, and it's always different about the watch, right? It's not just the bezel, sometimes it's the dial color. Sometimes it's the bracelet. So we built a database that stores all that information, and we can put real-time market value on that, and now we're actually taking that out to market to empower our industry. So that is one thing we look at from an innovation standpoint is we actually don't like to say that we're disruptors because we're trying to empower our industry. And so now you can go to Neiman Marcus or Jared or other retailers, and soon a lot more retailers, where you can go in and we will power their trade-in program because they don't know what the watches are worth. And so we can further our industry by allowing people to do what they're good at, which is selling new things, right? They make a lot more money off of them than we do on the pre-owned, and we get watches. But again, it's not to disrupt the industry. It's not to try and shake it up. It really is try to empower it and further it.
So really, to do your business, you had to build the data model for the industry and then populate it with your data, and then you saw that as an asset, and you're actually equipping folks to kind of change the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's leading to, you can go on our site now, some of our traffic is going to an instant quote where we actually will give you an instant offer for your watch. And that's not being done by anyone else because it's not easy to do. But it took us 2 or 3 years and a couple of failures. Someone in the audience used to work with us. He knows that we had a couple of failures, but we stuck with it and we had the time to do that. And now we just launched, we're just met with a lot of retailers who love the product and are excited about it. So it takes time.
Perfect. Matt's got a comment.
Sorry, picking up the moderator job. I'm innovating up here. I want to touch on a really good bad example, right? Mike opened the door to. I'm a bit of an outdoorsman, right? One of my brands that I love is Filson, and their tagline is unfailing gear. A couple of years ago, they decided to innovate. They wanted to reach the millennial market, and they partnered together with a designer out of New York City. Now, I don't know if you know anything about people that wear Filson. We're not prone to wear skinny jeans or fashion scarves, right? This is gear made for the field and made for the woods. And they had an instant and glorious disaster publicly when they did that. And they forgot one core element of innovation, which is you have to be true to your brand, right? We're not going to innovate selling watches. We're not going to innovate a different area of business. If we innovate, we had better stay true to our brand. We're in business to save and enrich lives. That's it, right?
It's interesting. So they had some brand drift. Now, Thomas, I actually feel bad for you having to answer this. It's kind of like somebody, you got 8 grandkids and you have to pick your favorite one on camera in front of a room full of people. You guys launched the 9100, which is slick and big. 7100 has a giant display. Dasani Pure Fill, Powerade cart with LSU. Your engineers are going to look this stuff online and see, what did you say next?
None of those are my
okay, good.
None of those are my favorite. I'm not going to tell you about my favorite, except that it was 2001, before smartphones, text dating app called The Love Hub with a tie-in reality television show. Pilot. We never got it. To fully to market. It was my grand failure as a startup guy, but it is my favorite.
You learn more lessons with that than any place else.
Oh, no question. But mainly don't spend too much of your own money. But the Coke innovation I want to talk about is a really cool one. How many of you here have coached or supervised any sort of high school or college athletics? Anybody done that? I coached a girls volleyball team, middle school, for 2 hours once, and I couldn't handle it. But a lot of what you do in the collegiate world is you mix stuff in bathtubs if you're a trainer. So Coca-Cola, we followed around a couple of teams, including the German national football team and the LSU Tigers. And our great innovation and the most fun we've had at Freestyle in a while, at least that I can talk about, the one that I can't talk about may have involved adult beverages. But for the ones that I can talk about, we made tiger juice for LSU. The Powerade Command Center is able to create for professional level athletes a before, a during, and an after, essentially concoction the salts needed for recovery, the carbohydrates, the proteins that are essentially prescribed by the trainer for the individual athlete. LSU, we like to think we help them win. I don't know.
I don't think so.
They were playing a Gatorade team, Powerade, I don't know. But you may have heard. So the trainers can prescribe essentially these recovery things, the salts and proteins, carbohydrates. The Powerade Command Center is a cart that can roll out onto the field. You can see what athlete is getting what, the athlete's pictures on the screen, and the trainers prescribe it. The athlete gets to choose the flavor and the sweetness level. So Go Juice is popular, as is Mountain Berry Blast with LSU athletes. So the Powerade Command Center with tank batteries and all of that being rolled out on the field was a lot of fun.
And you had some new things you had to develop, but a lot of that was existing technology. You were pushing beverages, you were pushing flavors. Let's try pushing different electrolytes, and we think there's a market here, right? So that was something that was assembling what you had in a couple of new pieces, right?
Most of it was assembling what we had, and because we have mechanical engineering, we were able to essentially build out a completely new device around existing technology. So that's what we did. We are trialing this in some colleges and universities, as well as in some gyms. We can't give a member of the public the dose of salts that you could give a professional level athlete, because they would have it would be bad, trust me. But we were, LSU players were drinking condensed Campbell's chicken noodle soup, cold, out of the can directly, in order to get the salt, protein, and carbohydrates. That's very, very typical. If you put an athlete in the field in 100-degree heat in Louisiana, southern Louisiana, for hours and hours in August, they need a lot of recovery. And so that's what they were doing. So there are all kinds of stories about how to create the recovery, but we can do it now with the push of a button, and we mix the drink custom right there for the athlete.
Great stories. I am curious. We're going mic free. I think we're having some issues. So if anybody in the back can't hear us, just give us one of these. Innovating on the fly. Trying to solve a problem in front of us. Is there ever a season when you're not thinking as much about innovation? Is there a time to say, let's pull back a little bit on innovation? We've talked about this, so I'll keep starting with you, but I'll start with you this time.
Can I start with a really short answer?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
If you cannot operate your core business, you should figure that out first.
Pull back.
Yeah, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of need.
Yeah, if you need water and shelter.
If you can't figure out how to chip your watches, maybe you need to innovate around that, but you need to be able to run your core business.
It depends how you define innovation, right? My quick answer would be no. But if you're not innovating every day, right? Innovation doesn't mean a new product line. Innovation doesn't mean a radical transformation. It means getting better at everything that you do every day. And you have to give yourself permission to be able to do that, and give everybody permission to do that. Create the culture that innovates. We've got a bit of a mantra that we share, which is just get smarter, right? In every situation, we just want to get a little bit smarter. So innovating for us might be changing a process or a procedure, a policy, or something that's slowing the business down and getting better. At a macro innovation level, sure, after a big release, you should move towards a micro innovation posture. As a startup, you have to give strategy a little bit of time to bake and settle in. Where you don't want to get into inorganic innovation, like making acquisitions and radical transformation of business, is when, like us, we're facing less than a 5% penetrated total addressable market. So it's time for us really to hunker down and pour fuel on the fire and get to the market faster and protect more people. Right? We don't need to innovate a new product line. We simply need to do what we're doing, which is creating the best in class and push it out more. Now in that, we're going to be innovating our go-to-market strategy. We're innovating, we're moving from direct only strategic sales force to channel sales. There's a lot of optimization that has to happen with that. Other people that aren't us are working on configuring and implementing our systems. Means we need to innovate for them and provide them the orchestration and automation that they need to get smarter. But at a macro innovation level, I think we're okay. We need to take a year or two and focus on market penetration.
So you're in a season where product innovation, you're not stopping, but it's taking a bit of a backseat. Your innovation's now around process, scale, channel. You're growing at a rapid pace.
I mean, for us, we kind of look at it as how much of our total addressable market, right, our TAM, do we have? We don't have enough of it, right? There's a lot more, and there's not actually a lot of people in our space. There's a lot of there's a lot of jewelers, and you can look at the Amazon and eBay. You can buy a luxury watch on Amazon. I don't recommend it, but you can. We have a lot of places to go. So we have people come in all the time and go, so when do you think you're going to move into handbags, right? Or what we did a stint at jewelry before I got there. Our CEO is the visionary. I kind of try to keep us focused, and we're a great yin and yang with each other, but it didn't work well when we went into jewelry. So why would we do that? Let's get really good at doing watches, right? I mean, hasn't been too long ago, there was a company in the re-commerce luxury space that really got raked across the coals for authentication. And it's because they do everything, right? And they do it well. They provide an incredible experience, and we're big fans of theirs. But we just said, hey, let's stick with watches, right? And not get sucked into the distraction, right? We have enough to do. We have enough things that we can work on scaling and getting better at what we do, because we don't have enough of the market yet.
I don't disagree with the perspective, but at the scale we run, we have a lot of attention, and you can call it innovation if you want, but I wouldn't call it innovation. Stable operations and continuous improvement in those operations are often even a different skill set and a different mindset than the people that will invent the next big thing. We roll X number of trucks a year to look at our dispensers, and moving a percentage point is a millions of dollar prize, and so we pay a lot of attention to that stuff. Sure, sometimes it's an innovation that helps us, but that operational piece of it is what gives us the permission to think big, audacious thoughts, and can go do Powerade and that sort of thing. Of course, we have shareholders. We're a public company. We have to return profit. We have to meet our P&L targets. And by doing those things, we get permission to go play with LSU, which, has generated zero revenue, but was the right thing to do. And we may, it could create a very large business down the road. But if we weren't running our core business, we would not have permission to do that.
I think that is key, that everyone is not necessarily an innovator, right? I mentioned our CEO. He's a visionary. He thinks about stuff constantly, and I'm amazed. I would not have started a pre-owned luxury watch company, right? I wouldn't have. He did it. He was at it for 3 years, and I come along. I would consider myself to be a little bit of an innovator, but we have a lot of people who just come in, get the job done, improve it a little bit. And you can't hold everyone to being like this accountability of you must be innovating at all times. It's not how everyone is wired, right? And you certainly need those people at all levels, CEO and down. But you have to kind of separate it out oftentimes, I think, as well.
That's a perfect segue. I'm getting the 5-minute warning in the back. We said we'd leave these guys with some career advice. Not everybody here has a job in R&D. Not everybody here is in a startup, but everybody has an opportunity to get out of bed in the morning and approach their work with more innovation. You guys didn't accidentally end up where you are. Surely you had some setbacks along the way. Parting shot for these folks, career advice around innovation, bringing a different mindset and approach to work. I don't want to start with Matt because I keep starting with him. So one of you two guys, who wants to go? Jason, quick on your feet.
I mean, I don't know. I think for me, I had a pull to go do something smaller and more innovative. And my experience here in Atlanta in consulting and Auto Trader was absolutely incredible. And I learned a great deal. But I had this pull of you kind of talked about big company, small company. Like I love, if you have the pull to go and do innovation and you want to move faster, Atlanta is just such a great market for the smaller company feel. And I don't know, look, I run marketing. I miss the 300-person marketing team that we had at other places, right? So, I mean, we're doing a lot of different things. But I would just say, from a career advice perspective, if you fill the pool, like, go after it.
It is a great state. I'm not just saying it because we're sitting here, but having launched a company 5 years ago, everybody seems to be pulling for you. Other than your competitors, people are like, good for you. What do you need? It is a great place. So it's a good place to be small and big as well. Thomas?
Yeah, so thanks for giving me some time to think about this, because I it's funny, career advice is hard for me, because although I run a large engineering group, my background is not engineering. I studied political science, history, and philosophy. And so my advice, and what I've seen in innovators, famous and not so famous, is really two traits. One is curiosity. And often it's curiosity beyond their fields. The Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs are famous for things like they read everything. They're curious. And so curiosity is the first one. If you're not a curious person, you're probably not going to make much of an innovator, and that's okay. Not everybody is going to be an innovator. And the second thing is closely aligned with this, which is the ability, and this is a skill that you build, hopefully you build in school and university, which is to learn. Is to teach yourself, and without those skills, I think it can be very, very, very tough. So, it's career skills, and I think most of you are. This is not a Generation Z rim here. So, unless I'm misreading, you guys already probably know this or don't. I saw some nodding heads, but I think curiosity and ability to learn. To self-teach.
Matt, with our time left, how about one nice, concise bit for him?
Yeah, I think that we've seen that there's a place in big companies for innovators, and there's a place in incredibly innovative companies for operators. I think that the only advice that I'd give you is God created you to be somebody, right? Figure out who that is, and then go be that person, whether it's in the company you're in or somewhere else.
Perfect. I want to honor a guy who spoke here a few years ago, Joe Plumeri, Willis Group CEO. I don't know who was here when he was the keynote. He was hilarious. He literally changed the way I think about innovation with his talk. So I hope something these guys said today sticks with you. Either way, let's give them a round of applause.